Welcome to Building the Future, hosted by Kevin Horick. With millions of listeners a month, Building the Future has quickly become one of the fastest rising programs, with a focus on interviewing startups, entrepreneurs, investors, CEOs, and more. The radio and TV show airs in 15 markets across the globe, including Silicon Valley. For full showtimes, past episodes, or to sponsor the show, please visit buildingthefutureshow.com.
Welcome back to the show. Today we have Tom Smith. He's the founder and CEO at GlobalWebIndex. Tom, welcome to the show.
Hi, thank you. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, I'm excited to have you on the show. I think what you guys are doing at GlobalWebIndex is actually really quite fascinating. But maybe before we get into that, let's get to know you a little bit better and start off with where you grew up.
Sure. So I grew up in the UK.
Okay.
In a place called Hertfordshire, which is near London.
Nice.
So close to London, so you could get to London quite easily, but far enough away that it was still a pretty boring place, to be honest.
Sure.
Yeah, it was fine. It was a nice place to grow up as a kid.
Okay, so you went to university. What did you take and why?
What did I take? In terms of studying.
Yeah.
So I studied geography. So
okay, what made you get passionate about that growing up?
Yeah, so I don't know. I did kind of have and this is like people geography, you know, not like mountains.
Oh, okay, interesting.
So it was all about towns and places and topics like migration. I don't know. University became a bit more about. You started doing things like gender studies and stuff like that, but
sure.
And geographical politics, and there's lots of aspects to it. But no, I liked it. I've always liked it at school.
Okay.
I always found it really interesting. And I always enjoyed the kind of global aspect to it, which actually kind of strangely fed into what I end up doing today. And understanding people and how they're in different parts of the world. So I ended up. It was basically what I was best at school. So I was interested to study it.
Sure.
And I went on to do that. And there aren't many direct routes out of geography. It's a bit like doing a kind of very generalist degree.
Okay, interesting.
But it was very interesting. I learned all sorts of things. So, and actually surprisingly ended up being quite useful in what I do today.
Yeah, I can imagine. So walk me through, you get out of university, walk me through your career up until kind of you decided to found GlobalWebIndex. Sure.
So I left in 2001.
Okay.
University, and it was was after the dot-com crash.
Right.
Bit of an interesting time to find a career.
Yeah.
I was kind of wanted to work in marketing, but I didn't really know what. And you don't really understand all the facets of marketing, all the different types of roles, or
sure.
So I actually got work experience at a media agency called Universal McCann, who are part of a big group called McCann Erickson, which everyone will know from the TV show.
Sure. Yeah. Interesting. That's cool.
Mad Men. Sorry, the name.
Yeah. Sure.
So McCann Erickson is a world famous, probably the biggest creative agency in the world. So I was in the media part of that group, and basically what Universal McCann did was plan and buy media space, right? So we would work with the biggest companies in the world. So really like multi-billion-dollar advertisers. It was a US business. I was in the London office, and all of these clients spending, some of the budgets were multiple billions. It'd often be, spending hundreds of millions globally. And it would be clients like, I worked with some people like Nestle, L'Oreal.
Big brands, hey?
Big brands, Microsoft, Xbox, UPS. I mean, worked on, a lot of brands. And basically my role, I had no idea this business existed, to be honest.
Interesting.
And I went into a market. There was a research team there, and I did work experience.
Okay.
Work experience for like a couple of weeks, and they said, "Oh, you seem to be, you quite like it. We're looking for someone. You're doing a good job. Do you want to have a job?" So that's how I ended up getting a job, which was great. So I got a job in the research team there, and it was actually a fascinating time to get a job in the research team there, and that's built the foundation of what I know today in the business that I'm in or created. So basically, marketing and advertising were undergoing incredible change in that period. So, in 2001, 2002, the
Sure.
internet was just started to become mainstream, particularly in markets like US, UK. Hadn't yet really expanded on globally, but everyone was looking, what the impacts on advertising would be immense, in terms of like where clients would spend their money, how you do advertising, the kind of data you're going to have, how you engage consumers. All of that was being shaped, and nobody really knew the direction it was going to go. Right. So
Sure. Yeah, very much.
Yeah. And I was working. So my job to support these clients would basically be, every time you build a marketing campaign and you figure out where you're going to invest your advertising spend, that would all be built on market research and data. So they'd want to understand the target audience, who's the right target audience? Who should we be targeting for our campaigns?
Right.
What does that audience look like? How do I reach them? What kind of media are they engaging in? What kind of tactics and mechanics will drive most engagement? And this was all, it's all driven by working with market research and data. So in marketing, and I was, very much involved in the top enterprise marketing, there were a set of what you call industry standard currency research studies, basically.
Gotcha.
These have been the foundation of marketing for maybe 50, 60 years. And in the UK, we had a product called TGI. In the US, the product's called MRI and Simmons. And these are basically very long-term research projects, all conducted offline. People would fill out these big paper books. They would aggregate all that data up, and it would provide you a really detailed view of consumers, right?
Right.
Use these data sets. So the issue that I was having, and increasingly having, is that because they're all built for the offline world, they were collecting loads of data about TV, radio, print, outdoor, everything to do with the old world of media.
Sure.
Very little about digital. And because they were built in offline data collection, the data was very slow to get published. So we'd be asking and requesting data on things like MySpace. It was coming around. We were looking at stuff like Friendster, things that were popping up, and everyone's going, "Oh, is this a big deal? Should we be advertising on it? What should we be doing with it?" And there were no data in these studies, because by the time this product appeared, by the time you could collect the data and get it back, it's probably disappeared again. Everyone's gone on to the next thing. So it was clear that, we needed faster data, was one thing. And the second thing was that increasingly advertisers were thinking more globally. So, if you put content online, it's not going to sit inside one country. It's going to go all over the world.
Right.
If you build a website, you get visitors from all over the world. If you, the borders of traditional advertising that were built because you could only buy a TV campaign in your local market or a press campaign in your local market were completely disappearing. So people are asking for global data. And there wasn't any, basically.
Interesting.
So I would be asked these questions by big advertisers, like, we want to reach, I had a specific example, working with a hotel chain.
Okay.
We want to understand how to reach travel bloggers in 10 different countries, and we're going to engage them. We want to know who they are, whether they're important, how we engage them, and then we're going to figure out how we support these travel bloggers and build, big social reach online. Before even like Facebook and things like that.
Sure.
And there was literally, I get this request, and there would be no data in like the study in the UK. I'd go out and ask all the different local markets. I can use your local research and data sets to figure out what you can find. This would take maybe a couple of months.
Wow.
You've got to send people an email, you've got to chase it up, you get on the phone. Yeah. It's a big job just to get one bit of information.
Sure.
And then they would all come back. Nobody would have information. What you could find didn't match. None of it was harmonized. And basically you couldn't answer the questions these clients were asking.
Okay.
And then we saw things like YouTube emerge, Facebook grew, then Twitter came. Yeah. Everything just was accelerating. Then mobile came along. And the whole world was not only getting online, but was becoming connected, and content is truly global. And today, we've seen the absolute evolution of that. And today everything is connected and global, right? But
makes sense. Yeah. But you guys were really early on then.
Yeah. Well, I was kind of at the forefront really, because you think, marketing is is, the most generally, for whatever faults of marketing as a business process, it's always trying to find new ways to communicate to consumers, right? So
Yeah.
they were on the front foot in terms of trying to figure out how to use online, and they were starting to think about how to do it across different markets. So I was lucky to find myself in that position and to see what was happening. And so I could see that basically what was needed, we needed global data. We need to understand consumers online, incredible, much bigger detail. We need data that was up to date. And specifically, we need data that really delved into social media. The social media was, it requires a much sort of deeper understanding of the end consumer, because the consumer is the person who is going to engage with your content, is going to share it. You're not buying that reach. You're not buying advertising. You're engaging with people. So everything becomes more conversational, more people-centric.
No, that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
So I'm curious then, when you guys originally started, because you guys have been around now, almost 10 years, right? And
yeah.
So how has it kind of changed? Like, what did you launch with originally? And then walk us through the journey of kind of how you've added and kind of adapted your platform, over the last kind of 10 years.
Yeah, absolutely. So the reason I knew how to build and launch this product is because I would have been an end user.
Sure.
Right? So I was working at agencies looking for this product, knew it wasn't there. I said, right, I'm running all this kind of research on my own. I can go and do it. So I left in 2009.
Okay.
So I started my career in one recession and then left to start business in another. So
interesting. So did you raise money and you quit your full-time job to start building this, or did you start building it before you left?
I kind of, I'd done a bit of background research, looked into what to do, but really I didn't really do anything until I left. So I quit and left in December 2008. And this was like 2 weeks after Lehman Brothers collapsed.
Sure. Wow.
Close. It was very close. I can't remember exactly. But, the world felt like it was going to end, and I'd made the commitment to start a business. But, sometimes those timing things, you just kind of got to get on with it. So I started out to set up GlobalWebIndex. I had zero funding, no money.
Okay.
Literally no money. I had no funding at all, no seed money.
Wow.
And I created a PowerPoint deck, which was this idea, which was a large-scale piece of market research that understands digital consumers all over the world, basically.
Okay.
That was GlobalWebIndex. In the beginning, I just had a PowerPoint deck, and it was the idea of what we're going to bring to market. And this was just me on my own. So I would basically, I must have presented this deck at least 200 times.
Wow.
Just going around using all my existing contacts, saying, look, I'm going to launch this later in the year. Originally targeted to launch it September. And, do you want to be part of this? Do you want to buy into it? Do you want to be a founder client? Do you want to invest in it? You can tailor it, shape it. And, no one wanted to do that. No one wanted to buy it.
Interesting.
And it was a tough time.
Sure. So how did you just pay your bills?
I did a little bit of consulting on the side.
Okay.
I had a very good, I got married. No, I got married a year after. So I wasn't actually married at that point, but I had a very understanding fiance who continued to go out to work, which was great. So thanks to her, she gave me a bit of space to do it.
Nice.
I did a little bit of consulting on the side, and really, what I didn't realize when I started the business, it's incredibly hard in this market to build. What you're building is an industry standard currency data set that everybody in the industry understands, buys into. They use it to trade media, advertising. It's like a common language, a framework, right?
Sure.
And to get that off the ground is really challenging.
Yeah, I can imagine.
Yeah, because you go in and they say, this is what they used to say to me when I took the PowerPoint around. I go, right, this is a great idea. Really like it. We need this. Who else is buying in? What other customers?
Yeah.
And, you're like, well, I've just launched it. Some people interested, but we're not quite there yet. And people would not come on board unless someone else is buying it.
Yeah, totally.
That's an issue at the beginning. Secondly, it's very long sales cycles, so people would have an annualized budget to buy this stuff within enterprise marketing. And it would take, you'd have to work 6 months to get into a budget. Generally, those budgets were very flat, or, and people were using it to buy existing stuff. So you know, there wasn't really, it was really hard to go out and find additional budget, right?
Okay.
So you'd have to convince people to drop old products and things like that. So it's very hard to get it off the ground.
Yeah, I can imagine that's really challenging, right?
Yeah. It was super challenging, and it took me. So I was out for the best part of 9 months presenting this, nobody coming on board.
Okay.
You know, I managed to convince Microsoft to find, you know, to use this, the last bit of their additional budget to do something speculative and work with us. So they would have found a client at GlobalWebIndex, and to go from there, one client, you can go and get the next one and the next one.
Well, especially if you have Microsoft, right? It's pretty easy to say, well, Microsoft's using this, so you should too.
But that's absolutely true. But actually, when you're building this type of product that's like an industry standard, or in fact any product really, especially in technology, business service, SaaS, it's all about the customer base. You know, people want to see it's credible. They want to see that other people are using it. They don't want to be the absolute first generally.
Sure.
And actually the product at that point was not very good. I mean, it was obviously bootstrapped to its maximum. It was a limited data set, covered 16 countries, wasn't very far reaching in terms of scale. I didn't own a platform or technology to distribute the data. So people are accessing it through BI tools and other third-party software. So it was pretty rudimentary, but it was enough. There was a definitive need, so there was enough of what I was providing that I could just get in the door with it.
Nice.
And yeah, I mean, that was the foundation, but it took, what I didn't really realize is how long it would take to really establish the business as a kind of credible player in this market. Because it takes years. You know, people need to get to know you. They want to see that you're around for a while. They want to see you're producing data, and it's, you know, everyone in marketing is using this data, and you've got the client base, and it takes a while.
Sure.
So early days, it was just myself for like 2 years. 2 years, had some help from my now wife. She helped me for a while, but I didn't hire anyone for a while.
Okay. Who was doing the development? Was it you, or did you subcontract out, or how did you get the actual platform kind of built?
At the time, there was zero technology. There was just the market research data set.
Got you. Okay.
And I was selling that on a subscription basis. Then it was always the intention for me to build the technology around it. So to build the API that would hold the data, to build the platform so people can analyze the data. But it took, I didn't manage that till 2014. So that's 5 years down the line.
Wow.
So that was hard.
No, interesting. It's interesting though, right? Because I think this is the real story of how this stuff actually happens. Because I think a lot of people would be like, he was an overnight success. And you're like, well, it took me 5 years to get kind of a first version, really, like online. Interesting.
Yeah. So
keep going.
And people don't realize how long these things take, right? And I mean, I could have done it maybe a bit quicker because we were bootstrapped. I didn't raise money.
But you also kept 100% of the company then.
Yeah, at the time, yeah. So obviously, I retained huge control of it. I mean, there is that upside, but in the flip side of that is you lose time.
Yeah, fair.
Time's pretty precious, right?
Yep.
You can't get that back.
Looking back, would you have tried to raise money earlier?
No, I think I probably should have raised a small round.
Okay.
To maybe advance that, be able to invest in technology earlier, not fund it out of clients and cash flow.
Got you.
Because that's when the business really started to take off.
Okay.
When we built the dashboard, we owned the user sign up model. We became a SaaS business, and now I sell users to a platform that has our data in it. And then when the business really started to accelerate, because it meant we could distribute that data all over the world.
Sure.
Extremely low cost. It could be entirely self-service, and that was revolutionized what we were doing. And I kind of wish I'd done that a bit earlier. Yeah, but I think what would have been ideal was doing an early round, be able to I did it the right way. Initially, I bootstrapped it. I would say as lean as possible. I proved that people would buy it. That was exactly the right thing to do.
Okay.
I probably then should have done.
It's good advice.
Yeah, well, you need to be, you've got to be able to show that you can prove you can validate there's a need for most products without building it as a technology solution.
Yeah, fair.
You can deliver it as a service. You can hack it in so many different ways, you know, like just to like validate that someone will pay money for that thing.
Sure.
I mean, I've seen people go out and spend huge amounts of money, time, effort building the technology without finding any customers. And it seems, you know, it seems like a crazy way to do it. So that was good. And I did that the right way. The thing I should have done is I probably should have done a raise early once I've validated that need to be able to build out the technology. And I could have saved, you know, 2 or 3 years on that, probably.
Interesting. Okay.
And that would have had a massive difference to where we are now, because we built a recurring revenue base that grows and organically. And so, yeah, I might have done that differently, but there was a lot to be said to bootstrapping.
Sure.
It makes you really focused, very lean. You know, you consider every pound you spend. You're trying to be profitable, and you know, I think it changed. And like, even though now we've done a fundraise recently for the first time, you still have that mentality of bootstrapping in you.
Yeah, interesting. You're not just going to throw money at something unless you're sure, right? Yeah, that's interesting.
Yeah. The downside is that you push quite a few things down the line that you probably should have done. So
okay, interesting.
Like, you know, I talked about investment in technology, being able to build that out. I mean, for that was fundamental for scaling. But you know, hiring people in finance, operations, talent, those sort of really important. Those roles are so important to be able to build a sustainable, scalable business. But when you're bootstrapping, you tend to hire the sales guy over hiring someone in accounting. You know, and
it makes sense.
And actually, you know, you're always chasing the money.
Yeah.
And you also chase things that probably aren't, you know, things that are distraction. I end up doing big projects. I did a huge project for a big technology company in the early days.
Okay.
And it wasn't really what I wanted to do, but it was going to pay well.
Right. And
probably should have, you know, ultimately that was a distraction, you know, so there's kind of, there's those downsides, but I certainly think for the first couple of years, it's really important, at least until you can validate you've got a business, right?
Yeah, it's interesting that you're openly willing to say that, because a lot of startups actually still do kind of custom work or client work some of the time. Yeah. But a lot of people won't actually say that. So I guess the point I'm trying to get across is, if you need to do it and it's a distraction, sure, but like sometimes you just need to do it, right? And you don't have a choice.
Yeah, you got to pay the bills.
So it is what it is, right?
It is what it is.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I just think, yeah, if you go in and raise money on day one without having any customers, I think you're not valid. There's always a way to validate that someone's going to buy what you want without bringing the money in the door. You know, there's a way of doing it.
Even if you just show, I've found, well, I'm curious to get your thoughts, but I've found even just showing screenshots of a workflow that's not even clickable, like printed off on paper, I've seen that work to people, and just say like, okay, here's the homepage, and then you log in, and then you go to a dashboard, and then you go here, and then you go here, and then you go here. And, you know, it can be pretty rough, and just some people need to visually see something, even if it's pretty rudimentary. And getting something like that done, whether you do it yourself or kind of hire somebody to do that, is pretty inexpensive to validate an idea. Fair to say?
Absolutely. I mean, I even do it now. We're pitching some of our clients now, pitching more customized, analysis platforms to work with our data, or some of their own data as well. And we'll actually, before we build anything, you lay it out visually, put it on paper, show them what it's going to look like.
Sure.
Yeah. You can get a long way with that. Absolutely. It's really valuable.
Before you write any code, really.
Oh, 100%. Yeah. Yeah.
So walk me through kind of the last 5 years then, because I think we covered the first 5 years pretty good, but how did you kind of, once this thing's really kind of rolling now and you're hiring people and you're building technology, walk us through kind of that journey.
Yeah, sure. So nearly 5 years ago now is when we launched basically the platform around the data. So that's when we became a SaaS business.
Got you.
For me, everything changed in terms of how you run the business, how you build sales teams. I needed customer success to look after users. We started investing in marketing, inbound marketing, different approach.
Yeah.
And for me, it was very intellectually exciting and challenging because I had no idea about SaaS as a philosophy or how to build a business, but it's an incredible way to build a business model.
Sure.
And, that's when, because then that's when we got truly, genuinely very predictable recurring revenue coming through the door. We were able to scale the business quite initially pretty rapidly, and it really scaled up last year. And the business continues to grow really quickly. So,
sure.
We went from what were we that period, about 20 something employees.
Okay.
Now we're 180.
Oh, wow. That's huge. Huge growth.
I've doubled that in the last year, I think.
Wow.
And we only closed the fundraising end of June. So, we've
congrats,
done
man. That's huge.
Yeah, nearly all of that growth's been done on a bootstrap business.
Wow.
And
just
it's exciting. It's really, every year for me as someone running the business, every year the business is different. And it's
sure.
like big
sure.
challenge.
Well, and I'm just looking at your site right now, and you have some huge brands that anybody kind of worldwide has heard of, right?
Yeah. We were. Yeah, the client base. The client base is amazing, right? So I'm genuinely. I think if I'm doing things I'm most proud of, is if you look at the clients that come on board,
sure,
and renew with us, keep working with us. We work with. We have kind of three core main groups of buyers or users of the data. So you've got advertising agencies of all types, and we work biggest down to the smallest. We work with agencies that have 3 people.
Okay.
We work with agencies that have tens of thousands of people, and everyone in between. And they're all using the data in the same way, really. It's to support their clients. They want to respond to briefs the clients give them. They want to win new business. They pitch for new business, and they want to deliver understanding consumers and audience insights. And that's, the foundation of kind of marketing and advertising.
Got you.
We also work with a lot of big publishers. So anyone that's selling advertising. So we work with the likes of Twitter, Snapchat, Google, and all of the big, technology companies that sell advertising.
Right.
And work lots of traditional, but the media brands have been around for a long time and increasingly moving online. So the likes of the Guardian, the BBC, we work with people like NBC and
nice
other guys. So, and they will use our data to validate who their audience is, what it looks like, and ultimately to be able to sell their online and sometimes offline advertising inventory for more money. They want to convince an advertiser that they should they should invest their money with that publisher.
Got you.
So that, and they will want to use independent data, and that's what we are. We're independent
makes sense.
of anyone, right? So the other kind of key vertical is corporate, working with big brands directly. So we work with people from all kind of sectors and verticals, but we increasingly work with a lot of sports brands, people like Liverpool Football Club, work with the NFL. We work with people like, on technology side, we work with some of the most iconic technology companies in the world, like Airbnb and Slack.
Very cool.
Lots of, people like Danone, Red Bull, these guys, really big names. And they're all basically using the same use case, which is increasingly companies are bringing marketing in-house, right? This is a really big trend. So they want to rely less on agencies or, bring the marketing strategy in-house. Increasingly, they're building teams that are making creative, making ads, they're booking, they're running campaigns, booking media, and they're doing all of that in-house.
Yeah.
And a lot of this has been driven because of Facebook and Google. Lots of companies a large portion of their ad spend is going to two places.
Sure.
They're also buying online ad spend programmatically. They want to bring that in-house so they can keep control of the data. So this is a really big trend. And everything's everything's becoming so fast, and then social media is making everything almost real time, instantaneous. It's very, you want to have, as a big company, you want to be really reactive and you want to own that stuff in-house. So, so increasingly we're working with, analysts, working with strategists, planners inside big brands, right? So that's a really big growth for us. And there's actually another sort of big growth area. It's interesting, smaller companies. So we're working with SMEs, micro businesses, and these are kind of people who never use this sort of data set.
Sure.
When I worked in advertising, it was only bought by the biggest companies.
Right. Well, it's the only ones that could afford it, right?
Yeah, exactly. The only ones that could afford it. We've made it really super cheap to buy. You don't get everything, but you can.
Sure. But you have a free plan, correct? You can start off for free. Yeah.
So it can be free. It can be absolutely free. So we built a freemium model in, which is in our sector of industry data is kind of pretty unheard of.
Yeah, very much so.
And then you can scale all the way up to like a really big enterprise plan where you get lots of customized features and data and everything in between.
Right.
So we get our number one sign up for free plans, CEOs in small companies, right? And people are, marketing's fundamentally changed from when I worked in an agency, and I could see this coming.
Sure.
Yeah. The start of it was that, marketing now is very democratized. It's very accessible. If you run a business like I do, we have most of our marketing in-house, right? Most of it.
Sure.
You're building content. You're buying ads on Facebook. You're buying ads on LinkedIn. You're running your social media. You're running, social media accounts. You're engaging with customers online. You've got a website. All that stuff's increasingly, small businesses, SMEs, mid-sized companies are doing that inside. And now you can reach a customer anywhere in the world. I mean, it's a fundamental change from like even 10 years ago.
Sure. Which is interesting.
Yeah, it's a huge trend. And they're coming to us saying, this is my customer. And we had one fairly recently. They want to look at high-end jewelry customers.
Okay.
We're a small company, build high-end jewelry. We want to figure out how we can reach them all over the world, right?
Sure. Makes sense. Yeah.
And they come to us to see if, to use our data to figure out what does a high-end jewelry customer look like? Where am I going to find them around the world? Which markets should I focus on? What platforms are they most likely to be losing online? What kind of content do they like?
Gotcha.
It's like, they want to build that kind of understanding. So that's a real growth sector for us.
Interesting.
And that broader democratization of marketing is really driving a lot of our long-term strategy, which is about making our data easier to access, i.e. as low as free, also much easier to use. So we're investing a lot in building really simple systems and platforms that are not, you don't have to be a market research expert. You just got to you can be anyone and get value from the data.
Thanks for listening to Building the Future. This show is heard by more than 1 million people monthly in over 15 markets worldwide, including Silicon Valley. Kevin Horick's guests are leading business owners, successful entrepreneurs, and merchandisers worldwide. Now, your brand has an opportunity to tap into this dedicated and active group of business people who are looking for places to invest and the right opportunities to support. Find out how you can get involved at buildingthefutureshow.com.
Yeah, I was playing with the platform, I don't know, like a week or so ago, just kind of between, when we originally talked and now, and the interface is really nice. It's pretty simple to use. Like I understood it right away, but do you maybe want to give a few more examples to people of how people can use your platform? Yeah. Because there's tons of ways you can use it, but I think just giving a few more examples so people truly understand would help.
No, I 100% agree with you. So there's we are kind of in the midst of a transition from working with these expert enterprise users to working with all sorts of people with infinitely different use cases. So one thing you're right, absolutely. So things we're doing to kind of take advantage of that opportunity is one, very simply putting out a much larger customer success team that can onboard anyone and give them relevant examples. So
got you.
That's and we got to deliver that. We have users in over 170 countries. So
wow. Almost all of them.
Yeah, almost all. Literally everywhere in the world. So
yeah, like
people come to us.
Is there like 200 or something, or just around that? Because like some people argue that certain countries aren't really full-fledged countries or something. Yeah. So you're in literally almost every country.
I don't even know the exact number, but I think 200 and something. Yeah. So basically anywhere in the world, we're getting people to come to us. Another way to remedy that is we are increasingly providing reports and insights and pre-built collateral that can help people understand, trends and what's going on. So that's a kind of people-driven initiative here, and we're building that out. We also built a team now internally to build a whole new interface and platform, which is built around use cases. So
interesting.
Your use case might be, okay, I just want to build a profile of what my audience looks like. What makes them up, what makes them unique. That would be like a pre-built template. Think of it like as a PowerPoint.
Okay.
Pre-built template, which you then just pick how you want to tailor it. Okay, I'm operating in Italy, and I'm targeting people who buy football boots. I don't know, isn't it? Random example.
Yeah.
And then it will populate the story, as we call them, the presentation with that customized data. So you don't have to do any analysis work. You just have to read and interpret the data. And yes, you're right. There's one thing to get people to learn how to use the platform, but the biggest challenge is getting people to learn how to use data, and then all the data we have and what kind of use cases can you apply it to. And it's a big educational job, but if you get it right, it's a huge opportunity. So.
No, it makes total sense. So I'm curious though, how do you guys keep the platform and the data relevant to kind of how this industry is changing so quickly? Are you taking a lot of customer feedback? Because you've obviously had customers for a number of years now, because you've been around for almost a decade. So it's clearly working, but how do you kind of keep up with the trends and adjust the platform to add and kind of maybe remove or kind of tweak features, right? Because you have to have done that a bunch of times, because that's the reality of.
Yeah. Oh, it's constant. Yeah. There's two sides to that. One, the data that sits inside.
Okay.
We work really closely with clients, and we take their feedback. There's a feedback process, and we collect data constantly. We publish it currently 4 times a year.
Okay, gotcha.
It's the most up-to-date global data set that exists.
Wow.
So we're going to move to monthly next year.
Okay.
And that will mean a kind of constant an ability to kind of update and do more in terms of bringing new things in and out.
Sure.
But that's built on customer feedback. And we also have like a trends and knowledge team internally who spend their life scouring the world for new things that are happening and making sure that we're always up to date. And that's really important.
Sure.
And, if it's stuff to do with attitudes towards AI, or if it's to do with, a lot of stuff to do with VR, smart homes, anything that's emerging, we look to kind of integrate and make sure that we're up to date on it.
Gotcha.
So that's the data side of it.
Okay.
And on a global scale, it can get pretty challenging. Like, you've got to make sure that you have relevant data in China, which is
that's got to be a bit tricky.
Yeah, it is. I mean, you work with customers in the market. You work with, we have teams here. I don't have any teams on the ground there who just spend their time looking at what's happening and what's new, right? So you got to invest in it, absolutely. On the platform side, just in terms of how people are analyzing and using the data, we run it like a SaaS business. I have product teams. We have a roadmap. They go out and speak and work with clients, and we figure out what features they need.
Okay.
So, as well as build, and one part of that feedback was our expert users wanted ways to really to mine data quicker and to run, build much more complex queries really, really quickly.
Okay, sure.
So we're building. We've now nearly about to ship that to all our clients, but that's been built out of user feedback.
Got you.
And,
I'm sorry to interrupt you, but I'm curious. How many times do you need to get the same request before you consider building it? Because you could end up chasing your tail really quickly if you try to build everything that every customer is trying to ask for.
Yeah. The danger, particularly on the technology product side, you end up with a really terrible product.
Yeah, it's awful.
Yeah, because it's driven by feature creep, right? There's no vision, there's no, you have to have a really solid, the strategy of what we're trying to build.
Okay.
You have to be really ruthless on the roadmap, and you have to throw things out.
Sure.
And our roadmap got so bloated, and this a lot of it's driven by client requests.
Right.
You can't deliver all these things properly. So you've got to be ruthless, and you've got to throw some things out and recognize there's certain things that we're just not going to be good at, and the customer may want it, but ultimately, we're just not going to be that company.
Got you.
And then pragmatically, sometimes you've got very big customers. You probably have to listen to more than smaller customers.
Yeah, fair enough.
You need a very solid product management and strategy, and to make sure things go in the right direction. And then you have to make big calls as well. So this is why we said, you know what, we're literally going to draw a line in the sand and build a new solution. So I talked about this stories product.
Okay, sure.
And we know that if we try and incrementally get to that where we are now, it's going to be very difficult.
Got you.
Invest, we'll dial up a new team under the same management, and then we'll get that off the ground as a separate product. And I think that's the way to do it.
Okay, so you're building that currently?
We started the process, yeah. I mean, it's going to take a while.
Sure.
Yeah. But
okay.
I had to build a new team because all the existing teams and product, all the engineers, all the product people, they're so focused on building the existing roadmap, trying to introduce new things. It's really challenging. So
yeah, working on two products at the same time, just switching your mental kind of mindset is challenging. I've done it before, and it's really, really tricky.
It is tricky. And I'm not a technologist. I've never, I've never coded anything in my life. Right. So, I'm a commercial person really. And it's like, it's a real education in terms of how you structure and build and scale up those sorts of teams. So, and we had to reorganize everything now because you hit a certain level of scale in terms of how teams structured, and it wasn't the optimal way of doing it. So we had to regroup people into different units, and and I expect again in a couple of years we'll need to rethink it again. And you've got to constantly evolve as a growing business. Things are changing all the time. So
sure. So will the products talk to each other and share data, or are they going to be totally kind of siloed from each other?
No, they won't be siloed. So they'll all be, there's like a central set, central sets of data that everything interacts with. Central, sign up, sign on, centralized API. There's those kind of underlying the pipes of the products, that are kind of centralized.
Yeah,
but then the user products that sit on top that work with that data, you can segment out and run them at different speeds and bring things to market. So we went from building one product to saying, if we build just one product, it's going to be really hard to get things over the line.
Right.
So we said, okay, basically we're going to start building multiple products on top of one infrastructure. And I mean, it's expensive to go that route. You see that you're going to struggle to continue to scale.
Yeah, interesting. So did you take some of the top talent from GlobalWebIndex and move them into the new product full time for at least a period of time? Or did you start kind of from scratch?
Well, no, we've really, I mean, at this point, we've basically started from scratch, but it's managed by the existing people here. But in terms of
oh, I got you. Okay. Yeah, you said that. Okay. That makes sense.
But we need to also, so we're doing quite a lot of outsourcing there as well, just to get it off the ground.
Got you.
Just to get quite a long way down the track.
Right.
And then, maybe we might change that as go down the line, but it's quite good to bring in some outside perspective on stuff when you want to move things initially, get them moving.
Yeah, quickly. That makes sense. And at least build your version kind of one, right? To get in people's hands and playing with it. Yeah, it makes total sense.
And what I kind of I've now learned the hard way is version 1 normally gets thrown away and you build.
Yeah.
You build
sometimes up to version 3 can get thrown out in my experience.
Yeah, exactly. You end up having to, it's great to begin with, but then when you start scaling, we get loads of users or feature requests get too complicated. It's better just to throw it away and start again, which is interesting.
So don't spend a ton of money on your first few versions, right?
Basically. Oh, no.
If you don't have to.
Well, yeah, and it all goes back to the kind of lean startup idea. If version 1 should as simple and throwawayable as possible. That's even a word.
Makes sense. No, that makes a lot of sense. So I'm curious then to know a little bit more about pricing, in the sense that you have a free model. What does that kind of include? And then at what point would people kind of need to upgrade to a paid model to get some of the more advanced features? Like, what's the difference between the two?
We segment it based on data.
Okay.
So imagine the total data set is like 25,000 data points, which is difficult to visualize or know what that really means. But we then segment that down into various themed, call them data packs.
Okay.
If you sign up for free, you get like an introductory data pack that has some high level numbers, but you can't segment it by very detailed audiences. So like, can't build very detailed customer segments. So you could maybe look at high level demographics, but you can't add, he's a fan of Adidas and plays football and likes to try new products. They're really kind of detailed segments you wouldn't be able to do. So you can then add and buy different data packs. You can build up a wider selection of insight. When you get to a certain level, we price it as a professional account and then an enterprise account.
Got you.
And they're basically structured on users. So you get all the data, you have all the markets, all the geographies, so you have global data, all the data points that we collect, and then you buy the number of users that you want. So, I mean, it can vary hugely in terms of user rate, depending on the scale of contracts and how far they're willing to push it into an organization. But those user-based contracts could range from 3 people up to, some of them are now like, in multiples of thousands. So
okay,
it depends on the organization, how they're structured. Some want to still centralize data and research. Some want to push it out to everybody. And
interesting.
We obviously like the companies that want to push it out to everybody, because our model is user-based, and that's where we get most usage of it, and we want to put it in the hands of people. It's basically, so we end up pricing and structuring it as a SaaS company, and that's how it works. So.
Makes sense. So you guys have a ton of different kind of free resources online. My favorite is kind of the chart of the week, but do you want to kind of talk about some of the stuff that you guys kind of constantly publish and give away for free? Because some of it, I found it really fascinating, actually.
I mean, it used to be chart of the day.
Okay. Interesting.
We decided to take it to chart of the week just to spare people's inboxes. But
sure.
That's incredibly successful for us. So, we basically, being an extremely large piece of market research, we have infinite data to work with.
Sure. Right.
You can turn it into any story you want. Like, I don't know, if there's an event coming, it could be something like Christmas. It could be NFL, it could be the Super Bowl. It could be a royal wedding. It literally anything. There's going to be a way of building a story or a perspective with our data that's relevant, right? So
sure, we
utilize that to build, incredible amount of content. So what's primarily driving our lead generation is content.
Sure.
We build chart of the week, which you can come to our website and sign up for. You can download, cut down versions of our reports. We give some reports away for free. We do infographics. We have a blog, which is really successful and has loads of, bits of data come out of the platform. And it generates a huge number of leads. Like the vast majority of leads come through because they download reports, right? So, it's useful to people. It's providing a useful service, but it's also great to introduce people to what we do. And they look at the reports, say, that's interesting. I wonder if I could get that for, I don't know, my country, my market, the products I'm working on, or for this segment of people. And that's the idea. It's about introducing people to the data and the provision of data we have, what they can use it for, and getting them a little bit, trying to encourage them to come to the platform, log in, and ultimately buy a license, right? So we are doing a lot more content marketing. We're doing a lot more educational content as well. So the guys are building out guides to audience, how do you develop audience insights? How do you run market, all aspects of marketing, building out user guides to help people. And the rationale there is if we help, as I said before, marketing is being democratized, moving into every organization is running marketing in-house.
Right. If
you help people understand how to bring some of the techniques from enterprise marketing to do a better job, they're going to need data to do that. So they're going to come to us. So if we educate the industry, we educate the world on how to do that stuff, it's going to benefit us ultimately, or it may benefit other providers of data. But if we grow that requirement generally, it's only going to help. So, we're very committed on that. We have a big team of designers here.
Okay.
I can't remember the exact number now. I think it's about 8 designers.
Oh, wow. That's a lot. That's
and they're not doing any web design. They're just physical, like building like reports, infographics, visual design.
Got you.
Right?
Got you. Sure.
We have 3 or 4 copywriters. We've really committed to content marketing.
Yeah. So you have your own big internal marketing department.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
We still do work with external agencies in certain areas, but we've put a lot in house, and they build incredible content.
Sure.
and it drives incredible amount of interest. So it's well worth it.
No, that's really great. But Tom, we're basically at the end of the show. So let's close with mentioning where people can get more information about you guys and any other links you want to mention.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, it's very simple. You can come to our website, which is GlobalWebIndex. Just Google GlobalWebIndex or come to globalwebindex.com. And you're going to find us, and hope you can sign up for free or you can download our content. I recommend getting Chart of the Week to start with because it gives you good familiarity with the kind of stuff we're doing.
Sure.
Yeah, it's a good place to start.
Well, Tom, I really appreciate you taking the time out of your day to be on the show, and I look forward to keeping in touch with you, and have a good rest of your day, man.
No, absolutely. Pleasure. Thank you for asking.
Thanks, man. We'll talk soon.
Okay. Speak soon.
Bye.
Bye.
Thanks for listening. Please visit our website at buildingthefutureshow.com to join the free community, sign up for our newsletter, or to sponsor the show. The music is done by Electric Mantra. You can check him out at electricmantra.com and keep building the future.